Hey everyone, it's Margie Walden here with Peace of Mind. In today's training topic, we're going to talk about mindset. So, before we begin any training, I like to start off with a quick prayer to acknowledge God and say, "Thank you, Lord, for blessing us with this wonderful day and opportunity to train. We ask that you bless us with the necessary skills and abilities that are needed to defend ourselves and loved ones if the need should ever arise. But we pray that it never does. In your holy name we pray. Amen." So, mindset. We talk about mindset often in concealed carry classes, and what actually does that mean, though, at the end of the day. So mindset, I like to think of it. Joel Osteen always says victim or victor mentality, right? So are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a victor in a critical incident, right? And just in life, you should take life in that same kind of perspective. And so oftentimes people talk about it, but I don't think they really understand what exactly that means and what that looks like. So if you're not training all the time and having that mindset, then likelihood of you being able to respond or act in a certain situation if you've never had to before is going to be pretty slim to none. I mean, you might be that one up that comes out of nowhere and just has this extra human strength and is able to act quickly on your feet. But for the most part, most people are not, unless they train like that, right? What ends up happening is they freeze because they don't know what to do. And so, how do you get there? Visualization. We talk about different things like that. I often tell my students, get out there and watch some of these videos and follow some of these people where there's actual shootings that you can watch and see. Okay, what would I do in that situation? Or it just makes you think, because most of us are decent people and we don't think in that mindset because we're not criminals, right? But in order to be a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. So, how does that mindset look? It's not, I tell you what it doesn't look like. It's not going to the range and just plinking dime sized shot groups at your target, right? And so that's why we talk about in the concealed carry class the importance of defensive shooting. So focusing on your target, right? Getting that gun out, launched, and rounds down quickly. That mindset of being able to say, threat, no longer a threat. When do we shoot? When do we stop shooting? Right? And training your mind to do that. Because otherwise, you're going to be that one person that ends up maybe either freezing, not doing anything, or you could be that person that ends up dumping an 18 round magazine into somebody. So it's all going to depend on many things, but a lot of it's going to resort back to how you train and the mindset you have. Mindset is also, Dave Grossman talks about like a warrior mindset in some of his training. So he's done studies on killology and the likelihood that people are to even potentially kill another person, right? Most of us just aren't wired like that, thank God. And most species aren't for that matter. So he talks about there's 1% psychopaths, 1% sheepdogs, which is the protectors, right? The good people, the good guys and girls with the guns. And then there is 98%, sheep that just kind of walk around and basically they're just sheep. So I like to have a little more faith in humanity and think that there's maybe like 96% sheep and 2% psychosociopaths and maybe 2% sheepdogs. But my faith in humanity sometimes gets me in trouble too because I do have a little bit more faith in humanity. But nonetheless, he's onto something there, and that is the mindset. So this has been proven in so many different aspects, whether it be a law enforcement officer, say for instance, getting struck by an incoming that's just basically a flesh wound and ends up dying because of that mindset, right? Thinking, oh my God, I've been shot, so I'm going to die, right? And then you've had others who, wow, you look and say, how did they ever live? You should be dead right now and not even be here, right? And a lot of that has to do with our minds. Our minds are a wonderful thing and capable of doing so much that we just haven't even tapped into. We don't even know what we don't know, right? And so that mindset is really just having that mentality to be all in. And some of us, we're wired for that. And some of us will never know until it comes down to that situation where you actually have to act, unfortunately, and you don't know what you're going to end up doing, whether you're going to be capable of that or not. And so that's why it's really important to train when you're out on the range. Train for those visualizations. Train for that worst case scenario, you're being attacked. Train for that visualizing, somebody's coming after your loved ones or whatnot with a gun, and getting that visualization into your training instead of just going out and plinking. Make good use of your time. As I tell my students all the time, shoot, no shoot, look around, look left, right. Don't just do the rubberneck and head bob. Actually do and go through the motions. What am I doing here? Think about what you're doing, because that's what you're going to resort back to, likely when you're under a stressful situation, is how you train. The saying in the military is, train how you fight, and basically you're gonna resort back to that. I can tell you that it doesn't matter. We don't know at the end of the day how much you train, but I can tell you that there is a little bit of proof in saying that people will revert back to how they were trained under a stressful situation. So it's better that you have some training than not. And the same goes true in life, right? Where the mindset, that mindset every day. I just recently joined a veterans group where a lot of us are broken and need some extra help, but a lot of them just have that mindset. They're just beat, defeated, down, depressed, and I just see it in the verbiage, even in the words that people are saying. It's just like they've given up, and that happens not just with gunfights or with critical incidents where you're trying to survive, but just life in general. You have a choice every day. You can get up. You can choose to be happy, choose to take life by the horns, and say, I'm going to make today so great that yesterday is going to be jealous. Or you can have that negative perspective where you're going to say, it's gloom and doom. So again, mindset's huge. And what I would recommend, I start off every day with prayer and gratitude. I get up, grumpy, and coffee, of course, too. But sometimes I don't need that coffee because I hit the road about dark 30 in the morning every day, and sometimes I can hit a little bit of black ice, and that'll get my adrenaline and my heart going, right? That gets your heart into gear, and no caffeine needed or cardio after that. And then sometimes there's deer jump out in front of me, gets that heart, that ticker going too. But again, mindset. I always try to maintain positive thoughts, and I have my down days too, but a lot of people always say, "Oh, you're so positive. You're so positive." No, I'm not. I have to work at it. It doesn't come easy or natural for me, but I could sit there and dwell in the things that I don't get, or the things that I don't accomplish, or have the pity party about woe is me, or I didn't get this, or I didn't get this. Or I can be grateful for the things that I have and that I have achieved. And so it goes true for your mental and also for your survival, your physical survival as well, right? So mindset is huge with athletes even. How many athletes do you know they've trained? From Tiger Woods to any basketball player is going to tell you they visualize things, right? They don't have this victim mentality that I'm going to go out there and lose and then they end up winning. It's not typically the case, right? They have this winning mindset. I had two people that I've known now. One was a student that came to one of my CPL classes and said I could never shoot somebody. And I said, well, then I would recommend you never carry a gun, because it could end up being used against you. There was another lady that came and gave a presentation. She was a victim of a serial rape, and it was horrible what happened to her. And I was like, well, I'm going to go and offer her a free CPL class so she can, arm up. And before her presentation was over, she's like, I don't carry a gun. I could never hurt somebody. And that was just foreign to me. Like, I can't imagine. I thought, is something wrong with me? Am I some kind of sociopath or psychopath? Because I want to live at the end of the day. I don't want to kill somebody, but I want to live. I don't want to die either, right? And so that mindset was foreign to me, to not be able to say, well, there are certain circumstances, and when you might have to, right? You might have to use deadly force. You might have to defend yourself or your loved ones. So, and good on her, she knew that she couldn't. So, don't use a gun then, because I'm here to tell you, I've never been in a gunfight. I've never had any combat experience or anything like that, and I don't try to play that when I'm teaching my students. All I have is really the book work. I've worked in a prison. I've had a few people bow up on me, right? I'm 5'1" and about 130 some pounds. And so when you have a 6 foot something, 220 guy, getting loud and jumping in your face, it can be a little startling. And no weapons except a body alarm. So that's all. That's the only experience I really have with regards to that. And I once had some nut job jump out in front of me in broad daylight, in front of my car at a light, and kind of stood on my hood for what seemed like forever, but was a few minutes. He was angry because he almost rear-ended me, and it was, of course, my fault. Broad daylight, in uniform, in Battle Creek, and this cuckoo bird jumped out. He almost rear-ended me. He ended up taking the shoulder of the road. He's in a van and hauling a flatbed trailer, and he had a bunch of equipment on the back of this flatbed trailer, and a few of the cement bags fell off of that load. And so the car in front, there was one car in front of me, there was a lane of cars to the left of me, and so he ends up taking the shoulder. I scooted over as far as I could because I could see I was bracing for impact, right? I'm in defensive driving mode, not thinking somebody's going to jump out on me in a car doing something crazy like this. So light turns green, the car in front of me goes, and this guy decides to jump out of his van onto the hood of my car, and so I can't go to the green light, otherwise I'm going to roll this guy. And I lock my doors, I call 911, and I was able to get 911 on the phone. And I had a loaded gun, one chambered, in the car with me. Didn't have to end up using that or present that. But had I not had the training that I had, this guy would have probably been eating the undercarriage of my car, because it scared me. I was not expecting that. He jumped out of nowhere, so I mean, he's literally standing on my hood, and I'm watching for his hands, and I'm watching for him to present a firearm or some kind of weapon, right? And then he starts directing another guy that was in the van with him to get out and get my plate. So I'm thinking, is this some kind of setup, right? Has he got a bat watching? So trying to watch two people around my car and waiting for an opportunity to escape, right, as soon as I can, or get out of there. And finally, the opportunity presented itself. He screaming, you're getting a ticket, get over on the shoulder. And I pretended like I was going to comply, and I got over on the shoulder of the road, or I acted like I was going to get on the shoulder of the road. But at one point, before we got to even that, I cracked the window just slightly, and I tried not to make eye contact with the aggressive cuckoo bird. And I said, sir, 911's on the phone. They have my plate information. You're endangering yourself and me. This is a pretty busy intersection. And here I'm thinking someone's going to come up behind me and rear end me, and now they're going to roll this guy, and I'm going to be out on 66 in this busy other road and get T-boned, and it would have been a disaster. But there was no rationalizing with this guy. He had lost it. He's off his rocker, so I just rolled back up the window. Nonetheless, I had a car in between me, right? Nothing to fear. If I had to, I could drive over the guy or drive away if I really had to come down to it. I had a gun in the car with me. But luckily for me, that was the only thing that's happened. Now, put that in a different scenario where somebody's approaching you, you're outside, you don't have all those barriers in place. It could be a lot more scarier, a lot less reactionary time, right? You might have to go into action mode a lot faster and do some things where you wouldn't have the cover and the barriers that I had in place. So what does that have to do with anything? That's all I have that I can bring to the plate. But I'm here to tell you, even with all the training that I had and with all the training that I provide, it still startled me, and it scared me, and it caught me off guard, because you're not expecting that in broad daylight, right? You're in your car, you think fairly safe, you're locked, I got a gun. But nonetheless, it did happen, and it was pretty eye-opening for me, because the adrenaline dumps still happen. I still got shaky. I still, but I was able to recognize all of those things that were happening to me, right? Get a hold of yourself, breathe, relax. You're just, that's your adrenaline, and able to recognize all that, what was going on with me. So nonetheless, it didn't prevent it from happening. And so mindset is huge though, right? At the end of the day, I knew if I had to, I had a firearm. If I had to, I could run this guy over. Many opportunity for me to get out and survive and stay. But that mindset has to be there. I mean, you have to be all in, because I'm here to tell you also, working in a prison, I've had prior law enforcement, prior corrections officers, prior special ops guys that, had maybe gone down a bad road and ended up on drugs or something, and then ended up doing some aggressive B&Es and ended up in the prison when I was working at Milan Prison. And so why is that important? It's because not all of your criminals are going to be some smash and grab crackhead, right? It could be something that's someone who has got some really good training behind them. And if they don't think you're all in and they smell that fear on you, you can be damn sure they're going to grab that gun off of you, or they're going to know that you're not all in, right? So you have to challenge yourself to be all in. Once you set that course of action in place, that you need to be a survivor. You need to go home at the end of the day, whatever that looks like. You might go home injured, but ideally you want to go home alive, right? And so it takes mindset, it takes training, it takes visualization, it takes all of that, that homework and that forethought. And even then, you're still might get caught off guard and might not be as prepared as you think, but you're going to be more prepared than if you didn't do any of that. So I also want to just, again, wrap it back with mental health. Mindset is huge. So you can sit there every day and focus. Life is 10% what happens to us, 90% how we respond to it, right? So you can sit there every day and dwell on, the woe is me, or what you didn't get, or what's happening negatively, or you can focus on something positive, set some new goals in place, and take the day on and in a different mentality. If you continue to do the same thing you're doing over and over and you're expecting a different result, again, that's the definition of insanity, and you will get there. And you'll end up being really super depressed and putting yourself further into a depression. And so I challenge you to, seek elsewhere, do some different things, try some different things, do some research if that's where you're at with your mindset. For shooters and for self-defense, I challenge you to get out there and do some other things, not all about gun, right? Go take a self-defense class, even if it's just a day class. Read books on this topic. Dave Grossman has a great one out there. Actually, he's got several, but The Warrior Mindset, and he's got one on Killology. He's also got one on the Assassination Generation. So youth and video games and the effects of that. And so he's done his homework. He's got several books out there that are really good reads on this topic. And it's really important at the end of the day that you have the right mindset, the winning victor, not a victim mindset. So again, I hope that everybody's enjoying these videos. I hope that makes a difference to at least one person. God bless you and stay safe. Thanks.